Mix up all the letters of that word in your mind, all of them. Focus on one of the letters, maybe something from the, okay. I saw the letter D really clearly. Were you focusing on that? I also see the R, and I believe there's a vowel towards the beginning. Is that a U I'm getting?
Yes.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and another exciting mentalism tutorial. And this one is very different from anything else we've ever done on the channel. It's a real showpiece. So you can do this one absolutely casually, hanging out with some friends. But if you've got like an official performance, like booked, scheduled, you can absolutely throw this in there and it gets insane reactions. And we're going to talk about different variations and different ways to do this to really max out how much you're going to convince people that you can actually read their minds with this one. It's so direct and powerful. We're going to try something with some magazines. And Nadia, I've got two magazines over here. Grab either one, doesn't matter, whichever one you want. Excellent, I will take it. Thank you so much. Men's Health, Vin Diesel, Family. And Nadia, what's going to happen is I'm going to flip through the pages like this and I want you to say the word stop whenever you like. Totally up to you. Make sure I stop when you say.
Stop.
Right there? Mm-hmm. That's right towards the beginning. Can you see that page number at the bottom there?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
you can?
Yes.
Okay. And here's what I want you to do. Grab your phone, open up either a text or a note or something, write down the page number because I want you to show it to Isabel, but I don't want to see it. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, just write down the page number and show it to Isabel. Isabel, have you seen the page number?
Yes.
Okay. Grab this magazine and open up to that page. And hold it up so I can't see it, Nadia can see it, nobody can see it. And Nadia, you look at me, make sure there's no way I could see over my shoulder what she's doing. Okay. Isabel, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't want you to necessarily look at that specific page, like on the left. Look at the left, look at the right. Try to sort of get as much, I'm gonna try to connect with what I'm getting. And sometimes I get it from one side of the page, sometimes the other. Okay. I'm connecting very much with the right side of the page because I believe, Isabel, and I could be wrong about this, on the right side of the page, it's like this big image that kind of jumps out at you.
Yeah. On
the right side. Okay, focus on that. I'm also getting a couple of different colors. There's a very dark color I'm getting, but I'm also seeing quite a bit of red. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And Nadia, is there any way I could see what she's doing here?
No.
Okay. And Nadia, there's no way I could have seen what page you stopped me at either, right?
No.
Okay. Isabel, there's an image and there's a word that both are jumping out at me. Focus on what these are. Are you focused? Because I feel like your mind went to that as well. The image first is what your mind saw. Focus on that image. This is an everyday item, right? It's something that there's probably one in this room.
Yes.
Yeah. I have one, right?
Yes.
And that's because that's where your mind went. The one I'm wearing one?
Yes.
It's a watch?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a word as well. There's a word that's really coming out at me. I don't know if it's the brand, but it's I don't know if it's something else, but there's a big word. Okay, do you see the word?
Yes.
Mix up all the letters of that word in your mind, all of them. Focus on one of the letters, maybe something from the, I saw the letter D really clearly. Were you focusing on that? I also see the R, and I believe there's a vowel towards the beginning. Is that a U I'm getting?
Yes.
Is the brand, say it in your mind again and again. Repeat the brand in your mind. Don't say a word out loud. Almost imagine like you're shouting it to me. I'm getting, is it two-door, something like that? And there's no way I could have seen that.
No, impossible.
Ba-bam! Let's learn it. So that was the performance, and I'm sure you can see how it just feels so real. Like they're just opening this magazine up to a random page, and you've got all these details, and you're describing it in the exact way they're thinking about it, and we're gonna go through all the details of really making this convincing. But as you guys know, I love to give you guys the history of this. So this is my version and sort of my presentation and subtleties of an old method and old principle that was in a book called The Book Without a Name. So Theodore Annemann, who's one of the most famous mentalists who ever lived and published some of the best basics of mentalism, wrote The Book Without a Name, and this was in there. It was called Genuine One-Man Magazine Test. Now, I did forget where I had read this, and I want to thank my friend George Tait, who's an incredible mentalist, for reminding me that this is where it was published. He's an incredible mentalist, incredible creator, and I highly encourage you guys to follow him on all social media. I will leave you some links in the description, but if you guys are serious about mentalism, you must follow him. Now I do want to tell you what the original effect was, because you can still absolutely do it that way with the magazines. So in the original effect, you would have 3 magazines, or 2 or 4, it doesn't really matter, and you would have a spectator choose one of them. So they would choose one of the magazines and the rest would stay on the table. You would have a different audience member call out a page number. So they would say like page, I don't know, 25. And you would say, okay, page 25, how many words in do you want the person to go? And they would say 5 words in. So you go, okay, here's what I want you to do. You would now instruct the other person who has the magazine. You would say, I want you to take your magazine, and you would take a different magazine to demonstrate. I want you to go to page 25 and look at the 5th word on that page. Have you done that? Great. And now you would focus and you would reveal that word. So I didn't like the fact that in most versions that I've seen of this, the performer knows the page number. To me, that makes the effect weaker. Let me know in the comments if you guys agree. So whether it's the original version where you know the page number, or my version where you don't know the page number, what's the secret? How do we know exactly what's on that page? Well, the secret is simple. This magazine and this magazine are the exact same thing. Now they're not gimmicks, they're not specially printed. You can make this in a couple of minutes and I'm gonna show you exactly how, but basically, other than the covers, these 2 magazines are the exact same thing. So now we're gonna go in depth and take a look at how you can prepare this with regular magazines and what the best magazines are to use for this, and you'll be ready to blow some minds. But before we get to that, guys, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on for more amazing mentalism and psychology content. Now, we're all from different parts of the world and magazines are different everywhere, but in America and in Canada, there's been a change in the way they make magazines sometime in the last 10 years. I'm not really sure when, but when I was younger, magazines used to be, the pages were all folded and there was 2 staples holding those pages together. Some magazines still absolutely do it that way, depending where you're from. And if that's the kind of magazines you have to remove the staples, so unfold them, take them out, switch the covers, so put a different cover, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that soon, and then put the staples back through. That's the way I used to do it, and still do it with magazines of that type. But recently, magazines have changed, and now the binding looks like this, to where there's no staple, and it's literally just a cover like this, and if you go to that cover page and you kind of push, you will see this, like this. It literally just comes right off. And this is beautiful, because to remove this, if I go slowly and delicately and I'm not too violent and I make sure I'm not tearing the cover, I can just do this. And that's it. That's literally it. I now have the cover of that magazine. It's off, and I'm going to use this to prepare my special set of magazines. Okay, so from the top, you've got 2 or 3 or 4 of the same magazine, depending on how many you want to use. One of them is ungimmicked. You're going to keep that as is. The other one, you're removing the cover like this, and you're going to stick a different cover to it to make it seem like a different magazine. So where are you going to get this other cover? Well, you have 2 options, and I'm going to give you the pros and cons for both of those options. Option 1 is you're going to find a magazine that is the same size as this one. So Sharp magazine and Men's Health are the same size, same width, same dimensions, so that's perfect. From a Sharp magazine, I did the same thing. I peeled off the cover slowly. You're gonna take a strong adhesive, like Crazy Glue, Super Glue, Gorilla Glue, whatever. You're gonna run it down the center of the spine and do this flat on a table. And then you are going to slowly put that in there on the table still, squeeze it down, make sure it's lined up, and you are going to end up having a magazine that looks like Sharp magazine, but is actually Men's Health. So these 2 are the same thing. Now, the disadvantage to this is the following. When you go to do the trick, they're gonna say stop and look at the page number. Now, this is a Sharp magazine, and if my spectator says stop and they go look at their number, I'll show you right here, that's gonna say Men's Health next to the number. Now, in all the times I've performed this over the years, this has never come up. No one's ever said, hey, wait a second, the title of that magazine is different than what it says next to the page number. No one's really paying attention to that. They're looking at the page number, but there is a discrepancy there that I want you to be aware of. The advantage of doing it this way is that in their head, when you show these magazines, there's an obvious disconnect. Your second option of a cover to put on this would be different editions of the same magazine. So for example, you go to the store, you buy, now it's September, 3 copies of Men's Health. Then you go back in October and you buy that month's edition of Men's Health. Then in November, you go back and buy that month's edition of Men's Health. You take the September ones, you rip off 2 covers, you take the November cover and the October cover, put on those magazines. So you're gonna end up with 3 Men's Health magazines, September, October, November. That's what they see, but in reality, it's all the September issue. That works really well. You don't have to worry about dimension because it's always the same. The only disadvantage for me is that in the minds of the spectator, it's all Men's Health. So it creates a bit of a connection between the 3 magazines. I'm not really sure it's a problem. It's just for me, it feels like it is. But when you go through and they say stop, it's perfect. They look at the page number, it says Men's Health, everything checks out. So it's totally up to you if you want to use different magazines or different editions of the same magazine. But that's it. You're gonna peel off the cover, stick a different cover on it, or if you have stapled magazines, remove the staple, remove the cover, put another cover, pass the staple back through, slowly fold it back in. Both look great. All right, so now how do you perform the original version? How do you perform my version? How do you really sell it? So for this explanation, first of all, I want to let you guys know that this is the exact opposite of what I just demonstrated. In other words, this is a Sharp magazine in there, legit, I haven't changed it. This is also a Sharp magazine. So basically both of these are exactly this, except for the cover. So that's important, and here's why. This is the one that I want my spectator to have, the one who's gonna go to a page and look at the details. This is the one I'm gonna use for the page selection because it's a lot faster and all they have to do is look at the page. They don't have time to really look at the details where it says what kind of magazine it is. So I want the one that's legit to be in the hands of the spectator. There's a very simple way to do this. I have 2 spectators, I have 2 magazines, and I just say to one of them, pick one. If they pick this one, the one I want, I say, great, hold on to that. And then I take the other one for the page selection. If they pick up this one, I say, great, we're gonna use this one to choose a page. And I just go right to the page selection. And then I tell the other person to pick this one up. So regardless of which one they choose to begin with, this is the one they're gonna end up with in their hands. I hope that makes sense. In my version, I've added 2 things. 1, I don't know the page number. And 2, they just get a peek at it randomly. And I think this makes it stronger. Here's what's happening. I hold the book up like this, so the cover is facing me, and I'm gonna riffle with my fingers through the pages like this, and they're gonna say stop. And I want them to see I stop exactly where they say. At this point, I'm gonna open up the magazine like this. Now notice it's coming towards me. I'm not opening up like this, I'm pulling this towards myself. And I am having them look at the page number. So I say, I want you to look at that page number. While they're looking at that page number, I am looking at the page across. So that page over there, I can see that. I could see, it says a Q&A with Armani Code Ambassador Ryan Reynolds. So that's good for me. See, this isn't a really nice page because it's a lot of text. It's fine, I'll work with it, but I typically would love something with a lot of pictures like, I keep going to that same one, like this, for example. Look at that. Nice shoes, a lot of colors. There's a word there at the top. It says Aniel, a glove for your feet. So that's beautiful. I like to pick magazines with a lot of visuals, and this typically does have a lot. So they could say stop right there. I can look across. I see this. These are great things. So again, they say stop right there. I pull this towards myself. I say, look at that page number. While they're looking at that, I can see almost everything on that page right now. I could see a green watch. I could see a guy jumping off a lighthouse. It says Mido or Mido, I don't know how to pronounce it. I could see pretty much this entire page. But to them, that's unimportant because they're looking at the page number here. I'm just getting quick details there. Takes me a second. Stop. Right there? Mm-hmm. That's right towards the beginning. Can you see that page number at the bottom there? Mm-hmm. I look at that, I remember it, I say, remember the page number, I close it. That to me is a really fair selection process. I have them write it down or text it or whisper it to someone else, and that person goes to that page in this magazine. So in that case, I don't even know what the page number was, but it was there was a watch ad. And what you'll find, which is really interesting, is the more you do this, the more you get familiar with the pages. So you just see that lighthouse at the corner of your eye and you remember that ad from a previous performance. In fact, after you do this 100 times, you're just gonna need a quick second to recognize what that page is. So here we had, it would have been page 42. So now the person in this magazine is gonna go to page 42, and you need to direct them to the right side because that's the one you saw. But they're on this page, they're on page 42, but you can easily do that with your words. You say, okay, I want you to look at the page, look at both sides, the left side, the right side. I'm going to try to see what I'm connecting with. And now, this is so important, it's all about presentation. If I did this and I told the person, there's a watch and a guy jumping off a light tower, they'd be like, cool, how'd you do that? The question would be, how does he know what's on the page? I don't want them to ask themselves that question. I want them to ask themselves, how does he know what's in my mind? So the way we do this is quite simple. Imagine looking at this page and imagine what your mind would do. So by looking at this, your mind would obviously see that watch, and then you'd pay attention and you'd see the guy. Let me show it so you guys could see. And then eventually you notice the water in the back and the sunset. We usually go from broader to more details, and we usually go from forefront to background. So I can say something with this like, okay, look at that, really focus on it. I'm getting a color, it's jumping out at me and I'm getting the color green. Is that what you saw first? And they'll say, yeah. So it's not about there's a watch there that's green. It's, is that what you saw first? And then they go, yeah. And then you go into more details and you say, and then a moment later you notice something else. And I think it's like, there's also a person on this picture. It took an extra second. Do you see that as well? So notice, I'm walking through the process and I'm going, do you see that as well? And they go, yeah. So now I could start describing the imagery a little bit. Literally imagine the way you would think about this and just describe it. And take chances. It's a lot of fun. You really want them to, like, you saw my spectator freaking out, like not just how does he know, but how does he know how I'm thinking about this? So now I'm gonna get them to focus on the word, Mido or Mido, I'm not 100% sure. But I'm gonna say, I'm seeing a word as well, I'm getting a word. It's not very long, maybe 4 letters. Do you see it? They're gonna go, yeah. And I'm gonna say, okay, think of one of the letters in there. Now, here's a fun little psychological fact. When you say to someone, think of a letter in a word, typically, very often, you'd be surprised how often, they're gonna go for the consonant closest to the middle. So in this case, M-I-D-O, the odds are they're gonna think of the letter D. But notice the way I guess it. I say like, okay, I'm getting the letter D, and I listen to that reaction. Because if they go, or they gasp, I go, is that what you were thinking of? And now everyone's like, how can you know what letter she was thinking of? But if I don't get that reaction, I go, there is a letter D, isn't there? There's also an I, and so I just keep going like it wasn't that important, that I'm just trying to get the letters. So guys, you have to be good with your jazzing, with your presentation. The more you do this, the better you will be with it. But with this gimmick, you have an awesome, awesome tool on your hands for some epic mind reading. So there it was, guys, a lot of information thrown your way, but I really tried my best to give you all the information I can to make this an absolute showstopper. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and let me know, what version are you gonna do? Are you gonna do the original? Are you gonna do my version? Are you gonna do with different magazine titles? Or are you going to do the same title from different months? Really excited for you guys with this one, and I will see you on the next video.